Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pollination Podcast. Today I'm going to be interviewing my beekeeping friend, Buddy Rich.
Thank you. As you know, I've got Buddy's Bee Farm over in Altha, Florida. And I got started quite a few years ago. I bought this 60 acres of land. It's got a creek at one end, spring at the other end. Really sweet little place. I was going to make a nursery there for native plants. I'd already talked to several people about it. I jumped on my tractor, was going to clear some land. Actually, I was going to put up a greenhouse. And that's how I got started in beekeeping. And I was moving some equipment around, a pop-up trailer. And after I got it moved, I stopped, going to jump off, and all of a sudden there was bees all around me. Up to this point, I'd never done anything with honeybees except killed them. That's all I did. I just sat there being amazed because, there's thousands of them, tens of thousands of them just all around me. And I sat there and I said, this is very interesting. Well, my phone rings. I answered the phone. I said, hello. Turned out it was a man across the street, a horse farmer. And his name was Joe. I said, hey, Joe. He said, Buddy, have you ever thought about being a beekeeper? I said, no, Joe, I had never thought about it before. All this time, these bees circling around my head. I'm saying, why, yes. He said, I was reading in the newspaper, local newspaper here. And it says they're going to have classes. This is in 2009 or 2008, somewhere in that neighborhood. Somebody told me today it could have been 2010. As you get older, days get longer. And years just go away. Anyway, I said, okay, Joe, thank you very much. And I hung up from him and got off the tractor. I was going to walk back over to where the pop-up trailer camper was and started over there. And I noticed the bees were following me, just right there with me. I got over, and where I picked it up at, there was another big group, just a huge number of them, like a big cloud. I went on over there and was standing there, and there, all of them around me again. I said, this is really weird. And the phone rings again. It was 2 in a row. I said, okay, this is cool. I looked at the caller ID. It was a friend of mine, Charlie Fincher. He lives about a mile away. Now, Joe only lives a few hundred feet, about 800 feet. He could have had binoculars and seen something was going on. Well, Charlie could never have done that, too far away. So I said, okay. I said, hey, Charlie. He said, hey, buddy, have you ever thought about being a beekeeper? I said, well, Charlie, I'm starting to think about it. Why? He said, I'm reading in the newspaper right now. They're going to have classes in Bluntstown. I said, you got to be kidding me. Charlie, could you bring that over here? I got something I want to show you. He said, sure. I hung up from him. I said, this is just too wild. I said, okay, Lord. God, if you want me to be a beekeeper, you're going to have somebody else call me that's has no way of knowing anything about what's happening. As soon as I said it, my phone rings again. I said, oh, Lord, what's this? Here we go. So I looked at my phone, caller ID. It was my ex-wife. She was living in Panama City. There's no way this side of the sun she could know what was going on. I answered the phone. I said, hello. She said, Buddy, have you ever thought about being a beekeeper? I said, yes, ma'am. I'm starting to think about it. She said, I was reading in the paper and they're going to have some bee classes. Maybe you can attend these down here. I said, yeah, tell you what, I think I want to do that. Does it say how much it's going to cost? Yeah, it's going to cost $50 to go to the course. I said, that's cheap enough. And then I hung up. She usually don't call me unless our handicapped son is sick or something going on. This time she called me to find out if I wanted to be a beekeeper. Hung up, started looking around all these bees. I said, okay, God, it looks like I'm going to start taking courses. What in the world am I going to do with bees? It was just like that. I just knew I was going to be a beekeeper. Well, it's been a long time now. I went to the classes. I met some real interesting people. One lady was an agent in Bluntstown, and her name is Judy Ludlow. Well, she got married to Judy Bliss now. Great lady. She knew her plants, and I'm glad she did. Because after we started these courses, I started realizing how important the plants were. I needed to know about native plants, but if I hadn't started studying native plants, I don't think I would have been ready for beekeeping, because you better know your plants if you want to be a beekeeper. Mm-hmm. And you know how that goes, don't you, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to know what's blooming, when it's blooming. I mean, if you want to keep bees and you want to make an income from them, for sure, especially, you better know when to put those honey supers on and take them off.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn too.
Mm-hmm.
We both have learned that one the hard way.
Yeah, I see the Chinese tallow is still blooming.
It
right
is
now.
at my house.
Yeah.
And the summer tie is still blooming.
Yeah,
That
unfortunately.
surprised me. It's been 3 weeks now, and it normally lasts only 2 weeks. Have you noticed that the palmetto's gone? The bloom's already burned.
I haven't seen it because I don't have any around any of my bee yards that I know of.
Oh, wow. I've got acres of it. Again, my land is situated. There's probably about 500 acres vacant around my place. So bees love it. My bees just, well, they eat up the honey.
Yeah, the palmetto makes a pretty good honey. Yeah, I've been in that. We've, worked for Barkman over there, and they had bees. So we always got a huge boost from those palmetto plants when they opened up. The bees would just be all over them.
Oh, yeah.
But it just seemed, they were open and then be gone pretty quick. That's why I've been surprised that tallow is still blooming, because it seems like it's been blooming for a long time.
It has.
And I've talked to some other guys, and they were telling me should have been dried up, almost a week or two ago even. But just yesterday I was under the trees, and the bees were just covering them. Still smells like honey out there.
Oh, yeah. My tallow is, the blooms are bright. Mm-hmm. They're still producing.
Yeah.
I talked to the inspector over at my place, Jeff Pippin, and he told me that we're having extra extended periods of blooming this year. A lot of people over in his area, he's over on the other side of Bluntstown, over in Leon, well, not Leon, he goes all the way to Leon, but Liberty County. Mm-hmm. Liberty County's got a lot of commercial beekeepers over there. And he said we've had a real good crop of everything this year so far.
Yeah.
And I'm glad.
All the beekeepers are glad. I think we've still been running around throwing on honey supers every day just to even maybe catch a little bit of extra. I almost wasn't going to do it anymore. I was like, oh, there's nothing. But when I stood under that tree yesterday and the bees were just humming away at that tallow, I was like, let me scrape a few more boxes down, and throw them on, and whatever. I need to do it anyways.
Yeah, I've got about 10 supers left to extract. Yeah. I mean, they filled them up as soon as I emptied them.
Oh, wow.
And I like that. That's a good way to go.
Yeah.
For a small-time beekeeper, I love that extra money.
Oh, yeah. How long have you been beekeeping for?
Oh, let's see, about 15, 18 years, something like that.
Yeah. You've been doing it in this area your whole life?
No. I was raised in Panama City area. My mom and dad were the first professional motel managers on Panama City Beach in 1946 and 47. My daddy retired from the military in Gulfport. Met my mama walking down the beach. And so when they started settling in, they settled in at Panama City because we had a beach. And I was raised on the beach for the first few years of my life. And then I started working on the boats. My first job was actually on a shrimp boat out of St. Andrews down there. Yeah. 8 years old. What a job.
They won't let you work that young anymore nowadays.
Oh,
somebody would get thrown in jail for that.
It was good. I enjoyed it. And I worked on boats down there. And then come time for me to get drafted, I didn't want to go in the Army, so I joined the Navy. Then after I got out of the Navy, I started working on boats again. And, I did a short hitch in doing motel work. Didn't like it. Too much of a hassle, too many tourists. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to boats. I got my captain's license. I traveled the world. I've been in every major oil field in the world, offshore oil field. And I love it. I've towed oil rigs all over the place.
Yeah.
That was what I did until I got hurt. I got injured, couldn't get on boats anymore, messed up my inner ears. I get seasick just thinking about it. Been in hurricanes, typhoons, and all kinds of bad weather. Now I can't even sit at the dock. I said, okay, well, I had to sue the company that I got hurt at. I used that to buy my farm. And I'd been there for a few years, well, about 10 years, when I found the bees, or the bees found me.
Yeah.
But God told me he wanted me to be a beekeeper, called me on the telephone. And that sounds weird, but that's what happened. And so, when God tells you something, and you know it's him doing it, you better dadgum sure do it. Because if not, you're going to be miserable. I know. I've been out of his will. I guess that's how I got hurt on the boats. I'd heard, I should not be on the boats. Went to church, pastor preached. Don't know what it's for, but you need to change your job. Okay, it had to be for me. I went to work. 2 weeks into the job, I got injured. They put me in a body bag, took me off as a dead. When they picked me up in the helicopter, I guess they found a heartbeat. I don't know. I was unconscious. I was out of it. I woke up in trauma center, Houma, Louisiana. 5 years later, I had an insurance settlement, bought my farm. 10 years later, I become a beekeeper. And I can't say I didn't look back. There's been times I've been discouraged. I've sold all my bees one time, started selling my equipment. And finally somebody said, buddy, didn't God tell you to be a beekeeper? Well, yeah, he did. Well, did he tell you not to be a beekeeper? I said, no, he didn't. Then why are you doing it? Why are you getting out of it? I said, well, if God will help me out, get some bees, I'll get back into it. It wouldn't be a week later, I'd have 10 boxes. Get started all over again.
Yeah, it's hard. It's almost an addiction, too. It's hard. I don't know, even if I said I take a day or two off, you get that itch, like you just want to go back to it.
Yeah, you can't, once it's in your blood, you can't stop.
Yeah.
I relate it to drug addiction.
Yeah.
And I hope nobody gets offended by that, but once you get addicted to honeybees and the bee stings and watching them, that's one of the advantages of being a backyard beekeeper compared to a commercial beekeeper. I've got time to watch these girls. I've seen them do things that are really amazing. They go against what the academia world, like the University of Florida, says. They just totally go against it. They have their own personalities. I've got one land on my hand. I call it Eloise. I said, if you've been around me very long, I've introduced you to Eloise. If not, I'll get around to doing it. But the cool part, I've seen them stand like around a bucket getting water. You've seen that, just wherever they can get water. And then one of them run around pushing them in the water, one at a time.
Oh, really? I've never seen that. That's crazy. Is it like just being a bully? Or?
Yeah, just being a bully. Just like kids playing around, pushing each other in the swimming pool. First time I saw it, I said, now this is wild. I stood there and watched it, and he just kept doing it.
Well.
And so, all right, I started paying more attention. Till finally, I saw something unique. I saw a honeybee drop off in the water. Just boom, in the water, in a bucket. I saw another honeybee. First one was laying on his back. I saw another honeybee come down and grabbed him by his legs and flip him over so he could swim.
Wow.
I said, now wait a minute, this one comes to the rescue. Well, the second one flew off. But I noticed he landed beside the water like he was watching that one in the water.
Huh.
I said, now this is wild. So I started watching more. I saw it happen 2 or 3 times. I said, now that is not something people in the academia world talk about.
No, I feel the same sometimes. I read some of the books or something about sort of like queen breeding or something, and it's very articulate what they say, but I'll be like, I kind of feel like I'm having the opposite experience when I'm out there in the field in the hive. And you don't know if I'm being biased or maybe I'm just missing something or I'm not looking at a large enough scale to maybe see the patterns that these large studies are seeing. But yeah, it's like you said, every hive, every bee is individual. We have people come to the house or, they want to buy a beehive or something. And they always ask every time, will the bees sting me? And I'm like, there's tens of thousands of bees in each box. We might have hundreds or boxes down there at the house. I'm like, every one of them is an individual in their own way, and there might be one of them. There usually is one of them that is kind of a bully. We'll just come out and get that. Especially if I tell them, no, you're fine, you won't get stung. Don't worry about it. Somebody will get stung in the face before I finish the sentence every time.
Every time, yeah. I know that feeling.
And you're like, oh, the bees made me a liar. It's like they just wanted to embarrass me in front of the customers or something. Yeah.
I've seen that too. Mm-hmm. I had one customer come in. Oh, she's at the bee club here in Chipley. Her and her son and her daughter. Her son wasn't with them this past meeting, but her daughter was. Mm-hmm. The son, I would show them Eloise, bee on my hand, and introduce her. And I say, they don't want to hurt you. If they don't feel danger, they're not going to hurt you. And you've seen that too, I'm sure. Well, show them Eloise. The guy says, "Can I hold Eloise?" I said, "Yeah." And whenever I tried to hand Eloise to her, he jumped back. He said, "Oh, I don't want to get stung." I said, "Okay, I got one for you then." And I had a box open. I reached down and grabbed the drone. Drone don't have stingers. It's not going to sting you. I said, "Here, hold out your hand." He was real hesitant, but he did. I put the drone in his hand. He said, "What's this one's name?" I said, "That's Fred." I said, "Now, Fred will talk to you." I said, "Now, whatever you do, don't close your hand. Just be sure. Never close your hand on a bee, honeybee, because then you get stung. Hold it open, talk to him." He said, "Okay." So he was talking to Fred. I went ahead and did something else. A few minutes later, I heard him screaming. I come run over there. I said, "What happened?" His mom said, "He got stung." I said, "Fred didn't sting him."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, kid." Called him by name. I said, "What happened? What happened to Fred?" "Well, he got tired of hanging out in my hand. He took off." He said, so I reached down and grabbed another one.
Oh, no.
And put it in my hand, was talking to that one. I said, "What happened?" "Well, that one didn't like the way Fred had been sitting there. And so I just reached right, closed my hand and said, "Okay, I got you. You're safe." I said, and at that point, she stung you, right? He says, "What do you mean she? Wasn't it a boy?" "No. I handed you a male, a boy. And what you picked up was a girl. The only things that have stingers in there are girls." That's a good point to make. And he was crying. His mom said, "Go get in the car." He hadn't been back to my bee yard yet.
No.
But his mom says he is very active in their yard. They've got 20-something boxes now.
Oh, wow.
Here in Chipley. So that is just part of it. And something else I've seen bees do. I haven't got to the point of proving it yet, but I will. I've seen bees grouping around water, and one hits the water, just jumps in the water, and sitting there watching the one in the water, flying its wings and, acting like he's doing the backstroke or something, and I'll see something drop off of him. At first, I thought maybe he was going in the bathroom. But as I looked at that spot that was drifting in the water, it was red. I said, "Okay." Then it slowly sank to the bottom. I think that was a mite. He was washing a mite off of him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never heard that before.
What I want to do, I want to catch that spot, because I've seen it hundreds of times. I want to catch it. I got to have to get me some slides, and I want to catch it on a slide so I can magnify it. My phone doesn't have the good magnification on it enough to get a good picture of a mite. But I think what they did, and several of them do it, they jump in the water to get the mites off.
I don't know. That would be fascinating if you could prove that, because I've always wondered if they're even aware that the mites are on them.
They've got to be.
I mean, they don't seem to make an effort to really groom them or anything. I think the Asian honeybee does that, right? The one that evolved with the mites, but we don't really have that behavior. I know they're trying to breed it into our Italian stock, but I just don't know how effective it is, and they don't seem like they do anything about it. I saw. I remember last year our mites got out of control, and there was one bee she had 5 or 6 mites just crawling all over her.
Oh, wow.
And we were infested. We lost like half the yard. It was terrible. But she was trying to just crawl around, do her thing, do her little task every day, and mites were just bleeding her dry. It was horrible. And you can't save them. It's like she's gone at that point. She's probably too infected.
Once you get that many, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You can treat all you want to, but we've got a couple of new things coming along for treatments that I think is going to work. I'm working with a gentleman now. Well, I have been working for him, working with him, not working for him. He's doing the queen isolation, using the queen isolation traps to treat his mites. The first one we did, we tested his equipment, which is clear plastic, easy to spot. The first test came back over 6,400 mites on one frame.
Wow.
Now, we were able to freeze the frame, kill all those mites. We did a roll after we did that, 2 weeks after we did that, and we ended up with 4 more mites. So we didn't get them all, and I didn't stick another queen isolation. If I'd waited 2 weeks so she could have put out more eggs and then put her back in the isolation box, we could have probably cleared that box up from mites.
Now, is that the guy? I think I saw that a while back. He came to the bee club. Is that where they have that clear plastic tray that goes or surrounds the frame, and the queen goes in there and just lays?
Yeah, I did a demonstration here for it.
Maybe that was you then. Yeah, that was a while back. So how does that work again exactly?
Yeah, it works.
I mean, how does it work?
How does it work? Well, it forces the queen to lay all her eggs in one frame. Well, once they're laid, we leave her in there 10 or 12 to 10 days. She lays it up totally. You take the queen out, let her go back and do some more. You take that one frame. You can either take it out of the frame or out of the box or leave it in the box. It don't matter, because the mites are attracted to the pheromone of the larvae just before it's capped.
Is that container? It has little holes that the mites can crawl through to get into?
The container it's like a queen excluder.
Okay.
And it's really cool. I've got one out in the truck if you want to see it.
Yeah.
They're really cool and they work. Now that's a whole different ball game, because once you get them in there and they get them capped, you take that frame out, you freeze it. Because when you freeze it, everything dies.
Right.
Mites, larvae, everything. Then you can decap it and feed it to ants or burn it. He said burn it. I said, no, I don't think we need to burn it. Yeah. That's valuable wax.
It is a lot of money in that frame, yeah.
Yeah. And so what I did, I froze it, and that particular frame, the one we got 6,400 out of, Jamie Ellis at University of Florida was kind of supervising what we were doing at Gordon's place, because he wanted to know, what we were doing, why, if it would work, I guess. And he was calling the shots on how we took the sampling of the mites. And we took the sampling on 100 square, 10 by 10 brood, marked them off, pulled them out, checked for mites. Then we multiplied it out. And that's how we got 6,400 as the total mites.
That's crazy. That's insane, the amount of mites.
Yeah. Now, if we had done this, say we did this for, say, 2 weeks, took her out, let her run for 2 weeks, and then did it again, because the mites are attracted to that pheromone that says we're about to cap. Mm-hmm. The bees are getting ready to cap, so they'll go through that queen excluder right into the cells. And, we proved that they did it, just by counting the mites.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I see is coming, to be a chemical-free box toward the box.
Well, that's good, because there are a lot of beekeepers who want to be treatment-free.
Yes.
And it's hard to do it, and it's risky to do it. I always hesitate to even recommend that kind of stuff to people, because I'm like, I don't know any really effective methods, and then you have to really be on it. And if you don't do it right, not only are you going to lose your bees, you're going to affect my bees when your hive collapses and your bees fly over and reinfect me. And we aren't, treatment free. We invest a lot of time and money into medication, into the bees themselves. So I'm like, I mean, I know some people who are treatment free. We actually have a bee yard that's near a treatment free beekeeper, which I think they only have a few colonies, and I've never noticed any spike in mite levels compared to anything else. So I don't know, maybe I'm overly concerned about it, but I know there is a huge demand for that, to have treatment free options.
Well, we got another mite coming in. It's still in Europe. It's not here yet. It's a lot more aggressive than the Varroa destructor mite. A whole lot more aggressive. They multiply faster. They multiply in greater numbers. Their reproduction cycle is shorter. So that means we're going to have a problem. Now, if we have this, it's called a Varroa collector because, there's all kinds of Varroa stuff out there. But this one actually collects it, that plastic one we were just talking about. Now, if this works on the destructor, it'll work on the other one too.
That's pretty good. I think that's what my state bee inspector Jimmy Davis was telling me a while back, is they have those traps set up around the ports and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they're trying to catch those bees that are coming internationally. They're usually living on those shipping containers. And I think he said he was testing for that new. I can't remember the name of it, but that new type of mite that was really bad. As well as everything else that wants to come over and kill our honeybee. Like, we don't have enough problems already.
Yeah, really.
It's like, let's just keep adding to the list. I really hope they can find. I think the true answer is going to be breeding in some sort of genetic trait into the bees, where they're grooming or even maintaining some sort of balancing relationship with the mites. I mean, I think the idea of wiping the mites out completely is just, that's gone. Like, we've got to find a way to live with them.
I agree with that. Now, there is a gentleman, I saw a demonstration in the Mariana Bee Club. This gentleman is from out west somewhere, and he is working on treating the mites with a chemical that actually changes the DNA of the mites. Because, I mean, he had it all set up. Most of the diseases that the mites transmit are found on the mites, and he had isolated all of them. He had the DNA of them, the whole thing. Now, it took a lot of equipment, and I don't remember all the details, but that's one thing he's working on. And, if we could use something like the Varroa trap and something like he's got, and then switch off to at least one treatment a year to kind of break the cycle, I think we can put it into a pretty good management program.
Yeah.
And, that's what I'm working on. Gordon was telling me that whenever they had first started the beetle blasters, he's the one that marketed the beetle blasters for large cuts. Mm-hmm. And he said they were having a meeting somewhere, and Jamie Ellis was there. And Jamie was talking about how all bees, or the chemicals that were being used, I think he said amitraz at the time, that amitraz was everywhere in the environment now because we're having to use so much of it. The bees are actually becoming immune to it, and which is proven to be true. So they were having to change things. And at the time, Jamie said we need some way to be treatment free. Well, the beetle trap had just come out. And instead of using poison, they were using oil, cooking oil. Great, this is a good start, because they were having some pretty nasty chemicals that they were putting in those traps. Some of them were very dangerous. But anyway, we don't use that anymore, so we use the oils. So, that was the beginning. And then came the isolation system. Queen isolation, breaking the cycle of the mites. And, that was the next thing, stopping the chemicals. And I believe we can keep going. I just hope we don't keep coming up with different beasts to the boxes, things to kill our bees. I hope the mites is going to be the end of it. I can praise it, that's right, that's what I want.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, they're definitely the worst of it. And hopefully, there's nothing like laying in wait. I mean, like you said, there's that maybe that new mite, but I hope there's nothing that's worse that's on the horizon. Because yeah, you can't take too many more hits. You're already combating so many factors that are just trying to wipe the bees out 24/7. It seems like it's a nonstop assault on all sides, and it's frustrating sometimes.
There's a gentleman in Alabama. His name is I think it's Robert, or anyway, he's written several books. He used to work for the University of Ohio, and he was Jamie Ellison's state of Ohio. He high mucking him up. Really a highly intelligent gentleman. I've seen him and met him several times, and he says there's some bad stuff that could come, but we got everything right at that particular time under control. He's got a lot of good books. I can't remember if what's his first name, Robert or something. But through the years, I've met some highly, highly intelligent people. And I've met people that, like I said a minute ago, the brainiacs, the academia people, they say, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And then you get out there and you're watching it and it does something different.
Yeah.
One of the things that I got experience with that I've already had people from the University of Florida tell me it couldn't happen, and it did happen because I saw it. One of my customers in Panama City, I've known him for about 50 years. He bought some bees from me, and I'd go over there and help him learn. That's what I do is teach. He called me one day. He said, "Buddy, I've got 2 boxes here that are swarming." I said, "Okay, why are they swarming?" He says, "I don't know. One of the boxes has had 6 swarms in 2 days." I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to come down and check," which I did. I went right straight down there. And what had happened was he hadn't been in the boxes. Overpopulation. They were still, they were brood bound. They were honey bound on the second deep. And I told him, you need fresh frames or put another deep on or something. Well, I found 12 queen cells. And it was all kind of, I think there was 21 or 22 queen cells that already hatched.
Wow.
So they were hatching and swarming. So I look at these, I said, "I tell you what, let's take some of these queen cells and move them into some of your nukes. This way you can have queens in case they all swarm out." We were working on that, and then I saw this one queen cell that was starting to eat out. She was about to hatch. I told him, and I showed him, he said, "I've never seen that." So I held it and watched him. She hatched in my hand. She had a deformed wing. Wing just wadded up. Now, normally, she's going to die in the box. The bees are going to kill her. I said, "Well, Andre, what you want to do?" He said, "I don't want to kill the queen." I said, "Well, let's put her back in the box. Take all the other queen cells out. Put her in the box by herself. That way, if they kill her, you've got these other queen cells you can put back in there." He says, "Okay." I said, "Now you got to watch this. Be back in this box in a week." Okay. Well, a week later he called me. He said, "Buddy, we got something going on here." I said, "What is it?" He says, "These are the biggest bees I have ever seen. They're invading this box." I said, "Wait a minute. Tell me what's going on. Describe what you're seeing." He said, "What I'm seeing is thousands of these big, huge bees getting into the entrance. They're just going in there." I said, "Are they coming out?" He said, "No, they're not coming out." I said, "How about the regular bees? Are they coming out?" He said, "I don't see any regular bees." I said, "Okay, I'll be down there in a few minutes." 45 minutes from my house.
Wow.
He's down in Millville and I'm up in Altha, or Fountain, near Fountain. So I went down there. The big bees that were going in were drones. I said, "Okay, why would drones swarm in a box? Unless the queen is being bred in that box. That's the only reason they would go in there." I said, "Well, we're just going to leave it alone." I told him, in a week, we'll go in it. I'll come down here, we'll get in this box. I did, and sure enough, the queen was still in the box. The one with the messed up wing, deformed wing. I said, this is impossible. This is not possible. Because if she starts laying, then she's been mated inside the box.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Well, a week later, I went back in that box again. She had eggs everywhere.
Huh.
She had 4 frames of eggs. That queen lived for 3 years. He called me, he said, buddy, I've got a bunch of bees on the ground. This was 3 years after that one hatched. I said, well, are they swarming? He says, no, they're just crawling across the ground. I said, can you catch them, put them in the nuke box? He said, sure. So he did. He caught them, put them in the nuke box. I went down there a few days later. Yeah, actually it was Sunday after church I went by. This was like Tuesday when he put them in a box. The queen with a deformed wing was in the nuke box.
So she had tried to swarm and fell on the ground.
She tried to swarm and couldn't fly. I said, now this is interesting. Now I told somebody with the University of Florida, they just laughed and said, no, that didn't happen. Yes, it did. Andre's got pictures of the swarm. She's got pictures of the bees on the ground. You know what I'm saying? This is wild. Academia world said, no, it's physically impossible. No, it's not.
That's crazy.
Mother Nature does her own thing. You know, you put rabbits in the cages. You put a rabbit, doe in one box, and the mate of the male in the other box. That doe's gonna get pregnant without that male getting to her.
You know, and I've read about the honeybees do that. I think it's called parthenogenesis.
Yeah.
Right? There's some honeybees on an island somewhere, and they're super isolated, and they don't need the males to reproduce anymore. They can just produce fertilized eggs. I don't know how the process is working, but they don't have to have drones to mate. Then the queen can just lay fertilized eggs right off the bat.
Wow.
And it's been proven. I know I've heard about it many times. So yeah, I mean, life definitely finds a way. It doesn't. I don't know what is it about a virgin queen that's on her mating flight that attracts the drones. Is she releasing a pheromone, or do they just see her?
No, it's a pheromone.
Well, then she would still have a pheromone in a box that's being, right?
Yes. You know, it's like a dog in heat. Mm-hmm. You know, she's going to attract dogs for 2 or 3 miles away. It's just nature. You know, same in all animals, cows, horses, cats. It's just human nature. There are some things you can't change. You can want it to change. Sure, you know, they say the queen has to be hanging, or the drone has to be hanging upside down. The queen has to be facing up, you know, before they can mate. Well, okay. What if the queen is hanging on the top of a frame and the drone is hanging on down about halfway down? If that's the position they can have, it's possible. You know, I'm not saying it's impossible because I saw it. And they're saying the academia world says it's impossible. And you've seen it. If you don't go by what the honeybee needs when they need it, they die.
Yeah, sure. And they're very logical. That's if you can just figure out what they're thinking, what their needs are, you can just work within that whatever thought patterns or processes they're having. Yeah, and that's really the key. I think to beekeeping is just knowing what the honeybees want, what they need, and you're kind of working within that cycle yourself. And to some degree, you can manipulate it.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, you can't just change their nature, you know, because you want to. I want to interview more people because I want to have like a diverse range of opinion. Like beekeeping's so diverse. So a lot of the episodes I record, it's just me talking or my point of view. But there's so many other points of view, and that's really what I want to document when I talk to other people. Because like you said, you said you're a backyard beekeeper, so you have maybe a different perspective. You have different techniques. In some ways, like you said, you're also more valuable to the new beekeeper because you're a little more in touch with them, and you're not trying to just work and make money 24/7. You can actually take the time to go out and help them. I can't really do that anymore. I want to have that perspective. I want people to hear that perspective too.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy going out helping people. It's what I do best. Mm-hmm. You know, In doing that, I met one gentleman named Martin. Martin was 80-something years old when I met him. He taught me about how the lunar cycle affects the honeybees, affects the queen. He could actually start on the New Year, the beekeeping New Year's, which is always December the 21st. And he sat down with a calendar with me and showed me, according to the lunar cycle, what the queen would be doing. I followed it for 3 years. He was 100% accurate.
Oh, I've not heard of that before.
Most people hadn't, because academia fights it.
Huh.
It's, what's the first thing that's going to happen once the queen starts getting ready to lay?
I don't know. I guess they would be still bringing in more pollen. Would they be expanding the cells, cleaning them out?
They'd be cleaning the cells out. They'd be redistributing the honey if there's any in there. First of all, it's going to be winter time. They're going to put the honey close to where the queen can get to it quick, because when she's laying, she burns energy. And they've got to have the energy to keep the bees warm. So, they start redistributing the honey and cleaning the cells. So they get active. You can actually watch it after the December 21st. The week after that, watch what the bees are doing. If it's not freezing cold on them, they'll be coming out on the porch. If nothing else, just walking back and forth on the porch. They're more active.
I definitely see the queen starts to lay. Yeah, December 21st is the winter solstice.
Yes.
Yeah, I do see them kind of start picking the pace up once the solstice is passed. That's in my mind. That's when spring starts, like the early stages of it for us.
Yeah, I call it. Well, he called it New Year's for beekeeper, for the honeybee.
Yeah, it basically is. It is the start of a new year. Yeah, especially in Florida, because you blink and our winter's over. So December 21st, it might be 70 degrees outside. So they're ready. They're ready to rock and roll pretty quick.
Yeah, if you got feed on them, if you got feed and they have the type of enzymes, I use essential oils. And I give that freely. If anybody wants it, I'll give them the recipe. So I use essential oils in my sugar water. And once they get started on this, get going good, and taking in the sugar water and building, the queen's going to think spring has already started. It appears to them that, they're bringing it in, because they're going to be bringing in artificial pollen, because I always have that out. And you mentioned a while ago if we could know what the bees needed. What I do, and it's not unique, I set up a yard feeder, and I watch that yard feeder. Sugar water with essential oils. If they're going into that, then that means they're not picking up any nectar. They need to be fed. At the same time, I have pollen, just pollen feeders that I hang in the tree. Just simple little PVC. And I fill them full of pollen. If they're going for the pollen and the juice, the feed, then they're producing. They're going into production. I went through 80 pounds of pollen, only 20 boxes of bees, 80 pounds in less than a month.
Wow.
That they were building. That was this year. So you got to, I watch the bees. What do they need? I let them tell me what they need. Now, sometimes I have to go outside that and like treating. The first part of this year, I was using oxalic acid. I had to kind of judge on my own when that was. And I guess I did pretty good. I didn't lose any of the mites. So I guess that worked. We all have to have our system. Every one of us is a beekeeper. And it's individual. I've told people, and you've probably heard me say it, you ask 10 beekeepers, you get 11 answers.
Yeah.
And every one of them is right.
Yeah.
But what's right for you? You're not going to know till you try some of these. Try different things. You get 11 answers. Try one or two. If one or two don't work, try another one. Mm-hmm. But don't stop trying.
Yeah.
Don't stop trying. It's not how many times you fail that counts, it's how many times you get back up. Try again.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Beekeeping is if you want it to be, it's a lifelong learning process.
Lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of people that started real young, There's one individual, I can call him by name, you've heard of him. I met him when he was 17. The man's been very successful. He's an excellent beekeeper. Josh Ray.
Oh, yeah, I know Josh, yeah.
I met him when he was 17. And he's in his 30s now. Excellent beekeeper. And he could do any kind of beekeeping he wants because he's sharp. He's the one that taught me how to wire frames, put wax in the frames. Wire them and wax them. I saw him do 100 wire in 30 minutes. Wire them up and put the wax in them in 30 minutes. I never duplicated that. Now I can build 100 frames in just about a half hour, but I can't wax them. Wire them up, put the wax in. That's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, seen that. Yeah, he loves doing the swarm removals. I think that's his thing. Cutouts. I usually give people his number when when they call me for swarms because he seems to love that. That's all I see him posting online. He's like, "Oh, I just spent 8 hours cutting this hive out of the side of a house for free," and I'm like, "Oh, have at it, man! I'm glad somebody's out there doing it."
I'm not going to do it.
I'm not either. So
I've done a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a few more.
No, because they usually don't want to pay you for that either. And bees are probably going to not make it, and who knows what you're bringing in the apiary disease-wise. No thanks.
I took a group one time. Church in Panama City called me, said, we got some bees underneath a trailer. We had to move in these trailers after the hurricane and all that stuff. He told me how it all happened. Okay, and I said, well, how urgent is it? Well, the trailer they're in is right next to our nursery. The kids can't go out in their playground. Okay, well, that night, it just happened to be the bee club. So I asked for some volunteers, people who want to go with me, help me do it. Because basically it was a cutout. Mm-hmm. We ended up, 4 of us went out there, and I was the only experienced one there. So I called the shots and had everybody working together. We ended up with 6 buckets of honey and comb.
Wow.
And everybody there took bees home with them.
It's a massive cutout.
It was major. And they were happy. But, I'm not going to do any more of those.
No, it's brutal sometimes to do. And yeah, you just come back covered in honey or insulation or whatever the bees are in, you're going to be soaked in that and mixed with honey.
Mixed with honey.
Yeah.
Fiberglass mixed with honey is not fun.
Oh, no.
Soaking your pants, soaking your hair.
Yep.
Your beard messed up. Your gloves would never be the same if you were wearing leather gloves.
No, you better bring a towel to sit on, drive back home in your truck because the seat's going to get ruined. Ants are going to be all in your vehicle.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I usually carry garbage bags with me, cover the seats with, because you never get that honey out.
Yep, that's crazy. Well, is there anything else you want to say, buddy, before the end of the podcast?
Well, the best thing I could tell them is don't be discouraged. And don't worry about getting stung. You're going to get stung. Don't worry about it. It just happens. You never get used to it. I guess that's about the best for beginners that I could tell them. Jump in with both feet.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Pollination Podcast. Again, I had Buddy Rich, and you want to say your company name again real quick?
Oh, yeah, it's Buddy's Bee Farm. And thank you for having me. Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Pollination Podcast. I'm Matthew Walker from Walk in the Woods Apiary. We hope we have answered a few of your beekeeping and pollinator questions. Please share your questions and comments to our Facebook page at the Pollination Podcast.